All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Daily Paycheck. Welcome to the Coffee Run with John. Doing these shows back to back, I get confused with where I am sometimes. So, anyway, good morning, all. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. We have took a few days off there because I had things going on. Right, I was traveling to Seattle. My kid was in town. We went to Metallica was here for a couple days, so we went to concerts in Seattle Friday and Sunday. So we just basically left here Thursday night, went to Seattle, and just kind of spent 3 days over there. So it was pretty cool. Holiday day Monday, of course. Yesterday I had work meetings in the morning, so I couldn't do the shows. So yeah, I'm back. It's been a hot minute since I've seen y'all, and it's going to be a short week this week too. Just a couple of things, news and notes wise. I've got travel, so I'm going to be in Vegas. Reminder, going tomorrow night. So I'm leaving here tomorrow night. I'll be in Vegas Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, back Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, actually, because of the layovers. But anyway, I'm going to be doing Heavy's birthday bash, so Heavy Haltham's 70th birthday bash. We're going to be out there. He's running a bunch of clinics and stuff. I'm going to take part in like a panel discussion about YouTubing and that kind of thing, kind of help him through that. Fill some time and meet some people and that kind of thing. I'll be talking to David at Casino Quest a little bit, I hope, about, my future potentially as a dealer, as an instructor kind of thing over there. And I'll have more news on that when I get back next week. So hopefully that'll be a fun and productive weekend. I'm talking to Station as well, to Palace Station, about getting the filming rights for a table during Craps for the Cure, and also permission to have a donation box at the table. That's really what I want from them. Can I just have a donation box at the end, and so Lori can sit there, and yeah, that's it. So hopefully all that works. Questions? Y'all do your homework. Remember on Friday, my little rant Friday, I asked you in the politics section, how many of you can find a way to make $8 trillion without taxing me and my paycheck more than a couple of percent. So anyway, think through that. I'm not going to announce this. Skill put this out here, but that's not actually etched in stone yet. I'm not here Sunday either. That Sunday. So we'll have a Zoom call today and talk about that. But Craps Chat for sure is postponed from this weekend. When it's going to be aired live will to be determined. We'll put an official note out on that tomorrow. Let's have a group session today and talk through it. Anyway, yeah. In chat, do the hashtag politics in your chat, and tell me how you'd find $8 trillion without killing me in my paycheck. And there's lots of ways to do it. And again, math is a nice thing. When you do some third grade math and like find out like how much money do we what's the value, the raw gross dollar value of all the imports and exports? What's the raw dollar value? The pure raw unadulterated income for every business in America. Find out what that number is, right? If you were to tax every import, every export by a given number, and you were to tax every dollar that comes into a business, not sales tax style, you can look at it that way, but it's a gross revenue tax on businesses for a small percentage actually over the gross that we bring in. I think it's like 6.5 trillion that you get to pretty easily with just a flat percentage of gross revenue on businesses, including imports and exports, let alone other ideas you might have, right? Without touching people's paychecks. You can do it. Not that hard to do. Math is actually, third grade math is actually fun. You start getting into complex bullshit and it gets crazy. But yeah, you can actually fund the operations without doing a whole lot of craziness and taking a whole lot of, he said, she said, this privilege, that privilege, this tax code, that tax code, who's cheating what, and just make it a flat deal. No nothing, no hiding money offshore for these companies. Very easy to make a lot of money in revenue for the country if they would just make it easy. And again, go to your third grade math on that. Have fun with that. Again, the assignment is still out there. Go have fun with it. It's actually not that hard to do. To find the money in the budget that we need with what we already have is very, very simple to do. There's an unwillingness to do basics, an unwillingness to make the hard decisions. Anyway, there's that. All right, what else do I want to talk about today? I do owe the world a little bit of an apology for a couple of reasons. One apology that I owe is Jeremy and Jim brought on the guy that did the dice control, the mechanical arm study, right, last week. And I hadn't watched the video. I saw a really short clip of the video, but I've read that study before. I made this blanket statement that it was a biased study, that, they didn't really follow the scientific method and blah, 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 blah. And then I watched the video, right? And so I've watched the video since, and I'm actually going to be talking, hopefully, cross your fingers, get him on our show, because I've got follow-up questions to ask of him. But yeah, he was a really cool dude, and it was a great, if you haven't watched it, watch the video from Jeremy and Jim. It was great. It's on the Color Up podcast channel, not the Color Up main channel. So watch the video. He's very interesting, and I think one of the things that I'm struck by is, and this is kind of part and parcel of my apology here, is the study itself. When you read the verbiage of the study, what I said holds true. It comes off as a biased study. It comes off, there's statements made within there that feel like the dice controllers believe that, or gamblers are susceptible to the fallacy of ... or mathematicians and physicists will just say, don't even bother with the study, right? And there's a little bit of chuckle, nudge in those, the way that the study is written. That's why I said my reaction when I first read the study years ago was, oh God, here, this another guy trying to debunk everything, right? Because it comes off that way. Right? And there's a lot of high-level math in there that explains a lot of things, but that's part of the problem with it too. It's like you can have the mathematical explanations in it, but don't dilute the findings with all that stuff, because people just they gloss over because they can't understand it all, right? All these tough formulas that are in there, it's hard to understand, right? I think there's also some conflicting numbers in there that I have to ask him about, because again, when I get into the math stuff, I know enough, but I don't know all of it. And there's a couple of statements that get made in his previous study that I think are not refuted by, but not supported by the second study. But he's tying them together, and I don't understand where the tie-in happens, right? So there's a couple of things like that I just feel like aren't quite right. But I did come out and say last week, I think it's biased. I think, blah, blah, blah. I think it was, wrong, right? He even says in the video with Jeremy and them, he wished it would work. He's like, I went at this thing hoping it was going to work. And I think, which is great. He went at it like I did. Like when I first did the dice control, the DI study that I did a couple years ago, I did like an 8-video series on it where I never really left my final conclusions because I still feel like I'm in the information gathering stage of the mechanics part of it. Like they did mechanics with a machine. I'm doing it with my own throws. I'm still feeling like I'm trying it still to try to figure out like what I really feel about the thing. But I've got lots of opinions on things. And I think he landed on, I hope it works, right? JB, good friend of mine, right? Y'all know JB from Fireside Craps, right? He's definitely a non-believer in dice control, dice of any kind, right? And he told me when we first started doing the information gathering that I was doing, and I'll show you some of those numbers today. He said to me, I don't think it's possible. Matter of fact, I'm sure it's not possible. I would bet my house on it that it's not possible, but oh my God, I hope you can do it. He's like, I really hope you're the guy that can figure it out and make it happen. JB said that, right? If you can do it, he said, I got the money, we can go play it. And part of that is him being a little snarky, right? But part of that is legit. Like, hey, if it's real, bankroll it, right? If it's real, like really real, not kind of real, but really real, then there's no reason not to bankroll it, right? And I wish it worked. Same thing with the PhD that did this study. Hey, I wish it worked is what he said. So full credit to Jeremy and Jim for interviewing him. Full credit to him for saying, hey, I wish it worked. Right? And coming at the study from let's prove it, not let's prove against it, which is the way that you read the study feels like they tried to disprove it, but he actually was trying to prove it, which I think is good. So I owe him an apology. I owe all three of them an apology for jumping the gun before I watched the video. So mea culpa on that one. Super sorry about that. I also got called out for being a hypocrite on a couple of days ago when I said, and I will revisit this again. I said on my show, I really don't like that certain people are out there now charging for lessons, right? But some people I don't care about charging for lessons, right? And he's like, okay, people are like, come on, John, you can't be okay with your friends doing it and not okay with these guys doing it. And like I said at on the show, and I'll try and re-clarify my comments. It's all because of that, right? It's all because of I've got buddies who I know, and I know what they're doing it for, right? I don't think that the people that I know that are doing it, that are friends of mine, are out there trying to sell snake oil. They're out there trying to influence you into paying thousands of dollars to learn the only way to ever to win. They're just coaching, right? Whatever. And if you want to do this as a side business and you want to, help pay for your equipment and stuff, that's a thing. I get that, right? If your goal in life is to really sell the snake oil and make it like Golden Touch, their advertisements are, you can't win if you can't throw like us. You got to pay $3,000 to come learn to throw like us. Otherwise, you're a fucking loser. That's like their messaging, right? I don't think Ed's doing that. Ed's like, hey, we did a podcast that went a little long. Pay $10 and watch the extra so we can afford better mics, right? That's not what he's doing, right? He's doing, I want to do YouTube, but I can't afford to keep running all the lights and everything else for free, right? I get that. That's a different mindset than let me take, whatever, like some people are doing and, trying to just, stick it to you with some dream. So, and again, I have history with people, good history, good friends, right? I don't have history with some people. And again, sometimes you get hit by the smarm and it just goes right up your ass. And then there's people that it hits me like that. And I know that for other people, see Ed and Alfredo and others, it hits them like that. Like they think that's smarmy, right? And I can't control that, right? For whatever reason, some guys hit you and you just get the tingle, right? You can't help that feeling. And I don't get it with some people. I get it with other people. It's hypocritical. I know it's hypocritical. Nobody should ever charge, or everybody should charge. You draw a line in the sand. I can't do that. I'm more like trying to, again, be supportive here, but really pay attention to the cringe that I have over here. And I know I should be cringed by everybody, but I'm not. And it's whatever. I'm a hypocrite and I don't care that people call me hypocrite on those things. And that's kind of where that is. I just, you feel the way you feel. You can't control that, right? And that just sometimes it comes out. So anyway, here we go. I want to get into a couple of things. A couple of quick drive-by announcements before we do anything else, and then we'll jump into the good stuff. Reminder of my schedule. So this week I'm gone. I'm going to be gone again Thursday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we get into the big shtick, right? October, the whole second part of the month, I'm pretty much gone. Cruising in March, cruising in July, DiceCon and Brownwater Basher in June. I'll be at CQ probably 2 weekends a month, or at least one a month forever. So a lot of things are going on with traveling and playing craps. I'm back to playing again. We got the house sold. I got a job. I don't have to put the money in a lockbox anymore and not ever touch it because we're okay now. So that's one of the, thank God, right? I miss the live play so much. Anyway, daily paycheck. We had a good show today. If you're not watching the show, I keep saying this. I know y'all can't watch everything live, but go back and watch. Sundays are really good. Today was a good one. Today was a day where I was waffling a little bit, and I'm like, what should I do? The thing is, we're buying in now for $9,500, right? 15% of our master bankroll is $9,500, and our goal is $1,900. It's like, these are big numbers, right? It's buying in for $1,000, looking to win 200. If you do the math backwards, right? That's kind of where we are with that show. And it's like, hey, what's the best way to try it? And so I went out today with $2,500, which would be like going 250 across from $1,000. And I'm like, I'm going to take 3 hits. We're going to go 1 hit, press, 1 hit, press, 3rd hit, bye-bye. And that's your paycheck, right? 3 hits and out, right? PSO. Go out there, got nothing out of it, PSO. I'm like, shit. Went back out there again at 5,000. So I doubled the bet, $5,000. I did a Dallas drawdown, 5,000 to 2,500, took the 2nd hit, played Iron Cross. We got our money back that we lost. We made a couple $100, 7'd out, went out there again at the bigger number, 1 hit, and bye-bye. That was it. It was a good day. We had a PSO, which happens. We recovered from it relatively easily on the next shooter, which was good. The 3rd shooter locked it in. the fourth shooter PSO'd again, right? We weren't out there, right? We were just shooting for fun. It was a good, we caught the rhythm. I talk about rhythm all the time, right? We had a bad hit, caught a little bit of a wave, dodged the bad one, right? We made our money in the good wave. We lost money in the two down cycles. The two down cycles didn't hurt us terribly. We were low on the first loss. We were low on the second loss. We were big in the middle. We got lucky. We got lucky today, right? But that's what I say all the time. You need luck. You need luck to find those humps, right? You also need discipline to say, when I've succeeded in the hump and I've taken all I can from it, you don't go back and take the next loss, right? That's the discipline part of it, which may or may not make any sense in the long run, right? I know math people will tell you that it doesn't matter. You can win a little bit 5 days in a row and lose a whole bunch on the sixth day, and it's all even in the end, right? But we don't think that way at the tables, right? We don't experience law of big numbers as you're playing. You don't go, okay, well, I won $100 today. That's not enough because I'm going to lose $300 in 3 days. You don't think of it that way. You say, I'm taking the $100 and today's a win. Tomorrow, take the $100. That's a win. You're looking at it in your short segments. And yes, all the segments together add up to a big segment that makes you basically even or lose. But you can't experience it that way, right? And like I said, I think experiencing the wins in the moment and getting out when the getting's good seems to work for me. And you can watch the paycheck shows. I've done 207 shows now, and it's worked. Most of the time, we get up and we run. We get up and we run. We take our lumps, but we get up and we run. And we don't get up and then try and keep the run going and then burn it all, which is what most people do, right? Jeremy did a video on why you lose at craps. I did almost that same video a couple of years ago, why you lose at craps. You lose at craps because you fucking play too long, right? You think it's going to keep going, or you need 5 or 6 hits to make it happen. That's the mindset that'll break you. This show, I hope, is changing some of that, where you can say, if I can just enjoy and lock up the wins when they happen, because they don't happen that often. When they happen, I got to lock them up, right? You're accounting maybe for future losses when you do that, but really you're living in the moment, live in the moment, live in the moment. If something bad happens, okay. It's okay. You live in the moment. You don't plan for that. And you don't, like, again, you got to know that you're living in that world where all your wins are and losses kind of combine into one giant number at the end, but you're living in slices. And I think the DI argument also, to me, is an argument to be had in slices, not in swaths. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So that's my paycheck. We're here we are. We're at 64,000 total, 54K in profit, on our way to the big number, and then I'll probably switch games. I'll probably go to like roulette or something. Crafting the Cure, no update really today on this one. I will be doing the website over the weekend. I got the new logo ordered. It's the same logo as last year, but it's got the right year on it. So that'll be coming in probably tomorrow, the next day. And then the website gets flipped over, and we'll have the new website up and running by next Monday when I get back from Vegas. That's my hotel room homework in Vegas is going to be getting the website up for Crafts of the Cure. All right. So let's see. We'll do one more. I just realized I'm not zoomed in. Let's do that. Hey, I'm closer to you now. Okay. Let's go here. Let's talk about, I want to talk about some stuff. I want to talk about this DI and why. Why do we care about DI? Oh my God. It's funny how these conversations happen, right? And it's like a lot of people, when this happens, everybody's eyes glaze over, like, fuck, we're talking about DI again. Like, can we stop with the DI talk already? Because here's the thing with DI. I believe you're never going to convince people who don't want to be convinced that it's a possibility, right? People who just are whatever. The dice don't, the physics don't lie, the slow-mo don't lie, the math don't lie. They're never going to be convinced that it can work. And people who think they can do it will never be convinced by any amount of slow motion that shows the train wreck that is the dice landing, that they're not doing it, that they can't get it done, right? And there's, again, right in the middle of that, right? You can watch slow motion video of dice getting destroyed when they hit the table and go, well, that was the best throw I ever made, and look at that disaster, right? One half of the group says, see, it's impossible. What are you doing? The other half of the group says, see, it wasn't a 7. Right? So these arguments that we have, they're so dichotomous, it makes no sense to have the argument, but why? I always ask, why do we, and I'll end this, why do we care? Here's the thing about it that I think is fascinating about DI. It's because I think it's important I think everybody should try it. I really believe everybody should try it. And everybody, I think, in their heart and soul wants to try it. And I believe this of all of us. Okay, and why do I say that? My boss came over. When was that? A few months back, he came over to visit me, just to have drinks, right? And he came over and he's like, oh my God, you have a craps table. And I gave him the dice. And he threw the dice. I said, and he didn't know what he's doing. I'm like, throw the dice. He set a point of 6. And I'm like, now you rolled a 6, right? Now what you have to do is you have to roll another one before you roll a 7, and you'll make money, right? If you put your money down here on the pass line, if you do that again, that's the whole game, right? Try and roll a number, and then it's a race. Can I get the number before I get my ass kicked, right? He's like, oh, that's cool. And then he threw the dice again. It was like a 4 or some shit. And he goes, wait a minute. He goes, I threw a 6 the first time. What did I do with the dice to make the 6 come? That was his first question. He threw 2 dice in his entire life. And he said, oh my God, his first instinct was to try and do it again, right? Everybody's first instinct. My wife, same thing, right? How do you keep throwing the same number? I don't know, Kat, how you do it. I mean, if I knew it, I would do it and I wouldn't be living here, right? Everybody, when they first get the dice, I think that's the human nature, is like, oh, I threw them and I made that happen. How do I do it again? And my boss was like, literally, he's like, there's got to be a way. And I said, there's no way, but it's interesting, right? Even the guy that wrote the study, the guy that spent however many years on the study, does the math, is an economist, knows the shit, right? Knows all of it, built a machine, right? And had a university study with a machine designed to throw the dice, looked at his slow motion in 10,000 frames per second, and says on the video, oh my God, the collision that happens when the dice hit the table, it's unrecoverable. It's so bad. And I've seen it, you've seen it, I'll show you some more. It's so bad, it's unrecoverable, it's impossible. Guess what that guy does? What does he do? The guy that did the study with the arm sets the dice and does the backhand fucking toss. He still does it. He's trying it, even though he knows good and damn well that it doesn't work, according to his study. He still sets the dice and does the backhand 8 mile an hour, 30-degree launch angle throw every single time. And he did the study and concluded that you can't be done. Everybody wants to do it. The why of DI is that it doesn't take much to move the needle from you're going to lose to you're going to win a little bit. It doesn't take a whole lot of influence to make that happen, right? Humans want to be better at things. We want to take things that are unbeatable and beat them. It's in our nature to do that kind of stuff. This is the why of DI, right? Now the how and all that, whole different conversation. Skill is saying in the chat, I've got a ton of, I'm sure I do have a ton of Qs and PCs, right? Do everything with a PC, please, not a Q, so I can find them easier. But let's go through it here. I'm going to go through some of what I think the questions are that surround this topic. Okay, 1, is it possible at all to exert influence on the dice? Now, the machine tried to assert that, okay? That's the first question. Is it possible, okay? The second follow-up then is say, if it's possible to do, if the machine can do it, or if we see a video that says, yeah, man, you can totally do this, right? If it's possible, can I do it? Can a human actually make it happen? A machine, ostensibly less fallible than a human, right? Can a human do it? Specifically, can this human do it? Can I, John, in Washington State, do this? Okay? If I can do it, how reliably can I do it? Like if I can get off a perfect shot out of 100 shots, how many of them are actually perfect? 2, 3, 8, 10, 11, 50? How reliably can I pull that off? I got news for you. The machine is probably going to be about 80%, not even, probably about 80% accurate. Even the guy that made the machine said it wasn't perfect, right? There was the machine itself had the dice rolling in different configurations. The dice hit themselves in the air sometimes. Like the machine wasn't even perfect, right? If that can't be perfect, how can you be? But if you can, how often can you be? Good. If you are able to do it, some number of reliable times, some percentage of the time. What do you do if you can? How do you bet it? Can you bet it? Can you monetize what you're doing? That's another question. Can you monetize what you're doing? Is it even worth it to monetize what you're doing? If I'm only influencing the dice, right, 10% of the time, is it worth changing a bet based on that, right? That's a big question, because I may get, let's really wind that statement back. If I can get 10% of my throws to be quote unquote perfect, right? Out of those 10%, how many of them still weren't sevens? How many of them were still box numbers, right? That there's a percentage of perfection and a percentage of expectation within the perfection. If that number is small, if it's 2 out of 10 and 10 out of 100, that's 2% of the time. Is it worth betting on that? That's what you want to know, right? And then again, what are you tracking? Like, what are the metrics that matter on this thing, right? The ultimate real question here is it worth it? Is it worth it to do this, right? We're wasting our time, right? And I think, for me, I have opinions on all these questions. I have some facts, but mostly it's opinion. I'm going to share my opinions with you, my findings, my feelings on these things. I'm planning to have the professor on to talk about some of these questions, right? But here's some of the things that I really want to know, like what matters to the dice controllers that are out there. And again, people who identify as DIs, like that really are, this is what you do, right? What metrics matter to you? Is it staying on axis? This study that was done only really measured on axis. All he really did was set the hard ways, right? 5-5 on top, 5-5, 4-4, 2-2, right? On top, they did a backspin throw. They had the 1s and 6s on the side. The only thing they really checked was how many 1s and 6s showed up. How many times did the dice go, quote unquote, off axis? That was really the only metric that they cared about. They looked at the other numbers, of course, and so there was, when you break down those numbers, and again, I don't want to do it here with you today. I'll break it down with him. I want to ask him to dive into his findings with me. What I think they were interesting. I think that the conclusions he drew from that were not conclusions I would have drawn from that, right? On a set of 1,000 throws, where you expected 333 or whatever the number was, I forget the number of throws. I think their expected number was 330 ones and 336s, right? And what he got was 160 ones and 400 sixes, right? So the total numbers of 1s and 6s were where they probably could have been, but the one number was reduced so much, right? They had to go somewhere, right? And at one time he had a whole bunch of extra 4s, one time a whole bunch of extra whatevers. I want to know that, right? Not only did you stay quote unquote on axis, what numbers, what pitch happened, right? What were you double pitching all the time? And I say double pitching in the result, not the dice actually doing it, right? What result were you seeing? Did a certain number become more prevalent based on some conditions? That's interesting. Didn't really check on that. Didn't really report on that. They reported on the percentage on axis. And on axis percentage, as you know, doesn't tell the whole story, right? I didn't see any reporting of facial exposure either. Now, one thing I track all the time is facial exposure. And I think that facial exposure, and what I mean by that is when the dice first strike the table until they come to a rest. So you have the hit, flying in the air, off the wall, flying in the air, hitting the deck, and then stopping, right? How many of the overall faces on each die showed up on top? In other words, if the dice are spinning kind of cattywampus, right? Do I have a dice here that I can? I don't have a die. Well, I kind of do. Little Monopoly die, right? But if they're spinning right here, right, just on the one axis, then two of the faces never showed up on top, right? You're only seeing the one. If they spin like this and it's like diagonal, every face was visible at some point, right? So are you hiding faces from the possibility of ever landing on top? That's an interesting thing that wasn't tracked in the study that I find insanely important, right? Because the point of this whole thing is to kind of control the action of the dice, right? I don't think we looked in this study about sets and adjustments And I really want to talk about the number of trials. I think it's important to know the numbers that matter. Do you need to get 10,000, 1,000, 5,000, or is, 320 enough? Right? Because in a given session, if you can make an adjustment, you're only going to throw 100 times. If you can quickly adjust, that 100 is what matters, not that 100 as part of the last 10,000, right? I think those are things that are important to me. So anyway, so let's talk about, can it be done? Let me see, I got a bunch, but there's so many PC questions. This is great. I love it. I love that I'm stirring debate. I said this morning, I'm going to piss people off today because I'm talking about it at all. But anyway, can it be done? This is the question, right? Can it be done? And there's a lot of things that I think are really interesting when you ask the can it be done question, okay? What is it? Can it be done? What is it? Keeping the dice on axis the whole way through a throw? Right? Can that be done? I would argue, and I think with good proof through slow motion video, no. You cannot throw the dice with a backwards rotation and ever have them stay on axis through all points of contact. They will not stay on axis and spinning that same direction after the table hit. They're going to go like this, right? All sideways. They will not stay on axis after the back wall hit. They will not stay on axis when they come to a stop. That just will not happen, okay? I would say an emphatic no. I've never seen a slow motion that comes close to showing that. Never once, okay? Now, can you get an on-axis result? Perhaps, okay? Can it mean slow them down, right? Reduce the facial exposure. Can I slow them down enough so they hit the wall and they don't go back across the table? Hit the wall and don't go all over the place. Can that be done, right? Sure. Again, what percentage of the time did the machine throw the dice and they sat still, right? How many good ones did it get? I know it wasn't 100% because he said in the video that a lot of them spun back 8 feet, right? So even with perfect mechanics, only a certain percentage of them actually sit down like they're supposed to, right? So can it be done? It being slow them down? Potentially, right? Depends on the throw that you're doing. So can you keep them on axis? Can you control the faces that are potentially going to land? Can you slow them down? Sure, right? Can it be the knuckleball? Can it be the forward spin? Can it be my horizontal spin, my side spin, right? What does the explosion of the dice tell us on those, and what are we tracking? I don't know that we tracked enough of that stuff in that study. I've only tracked one thing, which is my personal way of throwing, which is the one I think that it can be done. I'm going to switch screens here. I'm going to show you why I think it can be done. Let me give me a sec. You may not get sound on this, so I'm going to switch screens here. Give me 1 second, and we will see. This is the DI video that I did. God, how long ago is this? This video is old. This video is, let's see, 7 months ago I did this one. Slow motion chopper toss, right? Actually, this video was filmed before. It was filmed a year and 7 months ago. 7 months I did the smaller version video. I fast forwarded here to a certain spot because I want you to see something, and then I'm going to rewind it a little bit, and then we'll keep talking through it. Okay, so let me press play, and I don't know if the audio will come through. If it doesn't come through, I'll narrate. Let's press play. Watch the one on the right. If the one is up, the one is up, the one is up, the one is up, at the last second it rolls over to the 6, right? But that thing stays spinning and just barely touches the back wall. That's a legal shot. It's not a slide shot because they're off the ground, obviously. But yeah, that is like, if you could draw the shot on a pen and paper, that's what you would probably draw, right? Even. All right, so there's back where you just were. That shot right there, I gotta pause it. That shot right there is one I've shown before, right? Now this is a day that I did about 40 or so throws in slow motion. Okay, out of the 40 or so throws, there were 3 or 4 that were like this one. This one here I chose because the video of it was the cleanest one. That shot, if you watch it again in slow motion, you'll see that the dice, again, they're spinning. Go back to my other screen. The dice are spinning on that axis, right? They're spinning sideways, not forward, right? They hit the deck with the ones, both dice have a 1 as the top, and they hit and they spin, and the ones are still on top. They hit again on the deck, the ones are still on top. They both hit the back wall, come off the back wall spinning, and the ones are still on top. Then they come back to the deck, one of them stops dead, the other one rolls over and becomes a 6. So it rolls over twice, right? That throw defies all the physics people that say it can't be done. I would tell you, yes, it can be done. You just saw it be done. I have plenty of other video. If you watch that whole video, I break down about 15 other shots that are garbage, literally like hot garbage. Like they hit the deck, and people who want to see slow motion, I'm the first one to say my shot is ass. Slow motion on those things, they hit the deck, and it's a complete train wreck. Every face is showing 55 times. There's no slowdown. There's zero control, nothing exerted. That one throw, though, says to me, yes, this style of throwing makes it possible to say, yes, it can be done. Okay. The next question, though, can I do it? Well, yes, I just did it. You saw me do it. I did it once. I did it once. I can prove in my life I've done it one time. Okay. Can I do it often enough to monetize it is their question, right? I would say no. Right? You watch me in the mornings, right? I'll say you watch my daily paycheck every day and count the number of times. I get about 30 or 40 throws in a day. Count the number of times I celebrate a shot. 3, 4, 5 times. Perfect shot. That was great. Love that. Right? Maybe 5 times out of a show, I get a perfect shot off, right? I get a lot of good results, but there's not a lot of good shots in there, right? Can I do it? Yeah. Right? But the how often can I do it question, like, how reliable is it? Not very. And this is, again, for me, I cannot get the perfect shot off very often. Probably 10, 15%, maybe 20% of the time, I would say, hell yeah, great throw. That's about it. And of those, a small percentage of those have a great result, right? And this is the thing with all of this, right? There's this dwindling success metric that you get. Yeah, it's possible because I saw it. Right, I saw it. That video, unfortunately, is like, I wish I never would have done that. I wish I never would have had that throw on slow-mo, because that gives me all the hope to keep on freaking trying it, right? But yeah, it's possible. I can do it. I just can't do it very often. That's why I practice. That's why I do all the thing, right? That's again, this is the kind of the swing down the mountain here, right? The real question is what can you do with it, right? So if you had an edge, if you had an actual edge, right, what are you betting on? Like the professor that did the video, Michael Shackelford has said it, JB has said it, everybody has said it. It doesn't take much to swing the needle, right? You look at the card counters in blackjack, right? You're going to go from a 0.5% negative house edge to a 0.5% to 1% positive advantage for the player. That's a tiny, tiny, tiny margin. Right? Doesn't mean you're going to win every time. It means that you're going to win more often than not. And when you do win, you can compound it, right? That's what the whole point of that is, right? Is to change the house edge in your favor. It doesn't mean you're going to win more often. In dice, if you could do it, and I say this all the time, right? If you're a good controlled shooter and you're in a quote unquote pocket, that means you're throwing repeaters, right? And I'm good at that. I'll say it. I'm good. I throw a lot of repeaters. Today I had 2 or 3 times where I buckshot at my own point, right? And get a repeated number. You should be betting the come. You should be betting the pass line with all the odds. Because if you've got an edge, the pass line is a 1.4 house edge negative for you, right? It's a house edge. It's negative edge for you, right? If you can advantage play yourself with throwing and make the flat bet a positive advantage for you, and the odds are already no house edge, they're free, that's the only thing you should ever do. If you can throw the dice with the 8% spiff that you need to really flip the edge into your favor to an advantage, you should only be doing that. You should eliminate the house edge completely on the pass line. That's what you should be doing, and do comeback. You should eliminate the house edge completely. You already have no house edge on the odds. Eliminate it. Play the advantage play on the flat bet. That's what you should be doing. Nobody does that, though. Nobody does it. I tell you all the time, when I'm practicing my DI, all I do is come bets. because I'm expecting myself to knock those things off. I'm expecting to see no horns. I'm expecting to knock them off, right? That's kind of the, what do you do with it? But that's the thing, right? If you're only throwing 10% great throws and 2%, or, 2 out of those 10, 2% of the whole are actually like the results that you're looking for, does that swing the needle? No, you need 8%, not 2%, right? And I think that's where the this whole argument comes in, right? Is it even, what are we doing here? Like, is it worth even doing this for that little tiny bit? I can't monetize that, right? It's fun for me to go out here and say, well, I've been working. I can beat the 7 right now on this one, and here's $5,000 to prove I can beat the 7 on one throw, right? That's not it, right? Is it worth it to do the practice? Is it worth it to buy a table? Is it worth it to watch the videos and spend the time that it takes, right? TBD. I think, again, the shot I showed you gives me hope that I can maybe do this more often. It's worth it for me to try it and have some fun with it, right? I think there's lots of value, mental value, maybe not monetary value, but mental value for me to have a purpose, right? Otherwise, you're just, like I say, you're just giving up, right? And I say this a lot. I don't want to just give in and give up, right? I don't want to have the mentality of, screw it. It's all random anyway, and the hell with it, right? To me, the worth it is here. It's not so much in the paycheck. Does that make sense, everybody? I have questions that remain, right? A lot of questions that remain. I don't have the answer. Again, I have opinions on what I've seen, what I do, right? And the reasons why I pursue it. But I can't answer this for everybody else. The questions I have for the professor, and when I get them on here, I'm going to ask these kind of things, right? Why are we looking at thousands of rolls instead of hundreds? Now, I know law of big numbers will always put us back into shape, right? You can have 100 throws with no 7s, right? And then you can have 10,000 rolls where you have exactly the right number of 7s, the proper number. Not even making up for the weird ones that you had the first 100, right? At the end of the 10,000 rolls, your percentages are about where they should be. You'll be at 16.9% or something, right? You'll be right where you should be. The more you throw, the closer you get to average, right? That's what law of big numbers does for us, right? And again, the math people will lean on that and say, look, this is all bullshit. No matter what you do after 10, 20, 30,000 rolls, you're going to be perfect pyramid. And every DI that I've ever talked to says, yeah, I'm not bringing 10,000 rolls to the table at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm bringing myself and the 40 rolls that I'm probably going to do tomorrow. I'm concerned with how that 40 rolls goes, right? That 40 rolls will never be perfect pyramid, right? Can I create a vector or a variant in that set of 40 rolls that outlies? Can I make an outlier today that's good for me? That's the thing, right? So I want to know why we always pushing ourselves towards these enormous sets of numbers, right? Why is that always the most important thing? It's cool, right? If you can get to 5, I'll show you some numbers here. If you get to 5,000 numbers and have pushed one of the needles in one direction over that amount of time, that's saying something, right? But you don't, again, you're not betting in that world. You're betting in the smaller world. I've always wanted to get somebody to really give me the answer there, because we do play in these small slices. And yeah, all the slices together add up to a giant cake. I get that. But you're not eating the whole cake today. Today you're doing these bets and these throws. And I think that's where can you tune things, right? I do want to ask him about tuning to mitigate some of this stuff, right? Can they tune the machine to say, hey, in this segment, we're seeing, an exorbitant number of whatever, the dice roll over twice. Can you change the set and plan for that? Can you create pockets from the thing? Can they tune the machine to do my throw, right? Can my throw that I think outlies some of the physics that we see, can that be done with that same machine to say, look, let's turn the thing sideways instead of going long ways, turn it sideways? Can we see the physics of that repeated over time with some metric, right? Those are the things I want to know, right? I have more questions for him too, and I'd love to get some of your questions as well from what he asked there. I think the study was good, but I think there's incomplete analysis of what's going on. I think he looked at one part of it, and again, because Again, I'll show you all the slow-mo you want to see on this thing. That par style toss, that backspin toss is very good at stopping the dice. It's not very good at keeping them on axis. We think it is, but it's not. The dice never stay on axis, but they do slow down better. My toss does not slow the dice down the same way, but it keeps them spinning on the axis. What's more important? What's a more important thing? To reduce the energy or to keep the faces under control that you think you can? Like, that's a question that I still have, right? It burns, right? That question. So those are things I want to know from him and others. I'd love to get, like, you know, again, somebody else who's a proponent of or a practitioner of dice control on, especially with that style toss, to talk through some of that, right? And what are you really looking for there? Because I think there's a disconnect, right? The professor said it in the show. I really hope, I don't want to misquote him, but he said something along the lines of, I hope that people don't look at the study and conclude that now and forevermore it's impossible. He said that's not what he wanted from the study when he published it. He's like, you know, yeah, it's pretty damning evidence, but it's not a nail on the coffin. He's like, I don't want people to walk away from here being dogmatic about it, right? Of course, the comments of that video, dogmatism, right? It's like, see, told you, you know. There's a gray area there, and again, humans live in the gray. Humans live in the I can do it. I see patterns where there are none. I can make things happen that are impossible. We live in that world, right? And I think that's where the sauce is, right? And I say this all the time, you know, and he even mentioned to different surfaces, all those things matter. If it weren't possible, the surfaces wouldn't be so different. There wouldn't be varying numbers of diamonds and varying thicknesses of tables and varying lengths and depths and all these things, right? You'd have a standard length table, a standard depth rail, a standard width rail, a standard everything, right? If the casino world bought every craps table from the same manufacturer and was adhered to a standard like a basketball court is, right? That would be one. Imagine that world, right? We don't live in that world because they know, right? Secretly, they know. The more we vary it, the more we induce randomness, right? The more that we have less flat surfaces and the wood beneath has grain in it and the dice hit that grain weird and it goes, right? They want randomness, right? They're trying to undo whatever you think you can do. So anyway, it was all that. That's professor questions. And again, I think to answer the final question, I think we go to the questions. Why do we care so much? And I guarantee you, I haven't looked at the questions in our chat yet. People care deeply about this. Some people, John, you're at it again. You're an idiot. Why are you beating your head against the wall on this thing? You know the truth. Some people are like, you know, thank God for pushing back. Some people are like, we stop talking about this. Right? We care so much because a lot of people have their identities wrapped up in it. Okay? There are people who have tried it and couldn't do it and have looked at slow-mo and said, that's it. My identity is now, it can't be done. You're all idiots if you think so. And you have to defend your position. Some people are, I can do it. You see my results, right? I don't know how it works, but it works. And that's it. I'm digging in my heels on you're an idiot because you don't trust the fact that it can work. There are mathematicians who say, I don't care what y'all do, over time it's all going to equalize anyway. And even if you can do it today, you can't do it tomorrow. And by Friday, it's going to be perfect pyramid, right? There's all those things. Everybody has a dog in the fight, whether they want to admit they have a dog in the fight or not. And everybody fights for their dog, okay? There's a little bit reduced level of open-mindedness on this. And frankly, I think, to me, and again, at the risk of sounding like I'm waffling or riding the fence, to me, I don't care at all if it works. I enjoy it. Like, I get pleasure out of setting the dice, doing my thing, making my throw, and enjoying the fact that they flew pretty and they landed good and somebody gave me a high five, and that's all fine and good, and I enjoy that, right? Whether it works or not is immaterial to the experience that I have doing it. And I know deep down that, you know, again, 10, 15% of my throws are actually ones I'm proud of. And maybe, you know, 10% of those actually got a good result. I know that I'm playing with a margin that's tiny. I still enjoy it, right? And to me, that's all that matters, right? Is I'm having fun with it. So let's go to your questions. Let me go and look at some of the PCs in here, and we'll go through, and I'm going to see what people have been saying throughout the show. And we have 41 people watching, which is good because I didn't turn you all off. And again, it's all my opinion, very little fact. And I will go back. I got some time. I'll show you a couple of things that I think are interesting results-wise. So Louis says, I contacted Dr. Scott, told him about Bone Tracker, and he's going to compare the dice set recommendations by Bone Tracker for the mechanics of the machine. That should be, and that's what I was saying, right? Can the machine be adjusted to see that? One thing I'd asked Joe from Craftmaster Journey was, I would like to know, and again, Bone Tracker does this, but I want to know, like, for example, if you're throwing a dice set today, okay, does a given day, Wednesday that we're on, right, is today the day that my right die is showing a double pitch result, whatever, 80% of the time? Is 80% of the time that one die acting weird, right? Tomorrow it may be the other one that does it, but is today that a thing, right? I want to know from Joe's thing, what percentage of his days does he have one die doing the same thing over and over again, which doesn't speak to control, but it speaks to a pattern that developed for some reason. Why does one die for one day double all the time? Like, what's going on there? Is that real or not? Is there numbers you can put to that? I don't know, right? I think that'd be kind of cool. Dice Dr. Dan, why concern ourselves? Why would we make better off with what to bet? I hear you, right? And again, the paycheck show is that. The paycheck show is what you're talking about, right? Get your money off the table, bet smart, right? Bet to your bankroll, get your money off, right? That's ultimately what happens, right? DI says maybe more often than not that can happen, right? If I have 10% great throws and 1% or 2% great results, like 10% good throws, 10% good results, that means that, 1 or 2% out of 100, right? I'm getting the perfect shot with a good result. That makes my betting work better. That makes my one hit and down strategy, I got a better chance at it. A slightly better chance, but a better chance. That's the reason why. But yeah, am I telling anybody to practice their dice throwing and bet accordingly? No. And if you can throw the dice to that degree of influence, or you've beaten gotten yourself an edge, you should be doing the most basic thing, which is come betting and odds. You should be on the bet that you can absolutely flip the house edge into a player advantage and not try a bunch of place bets and pressing. That would be the dumbest thing you could do. If you did have an advantage, the smart thing to do is to go past line max odds, right? Eliminate the house edge, go to pure player advantage. Don't try and press and fight City Hall. Like, that's the thing. And I think there's a nugget in there that I think a lot of people don't want to hear, but that's the answer to the question, right? I think. Let's see. They both love to go. Yeah, I know. People are going after the ATS and then stand access or go. So that's what you're talking through. This is part of the why conversation, right? Why do we care? What is the goal of it, right? I think a lot of DIs think they hit the ATS more often, right? Maybe they're thinking their dice sets can get things done. Fine, right? Do the math, right? How many of your throws are perfect, right? And I mean, like, I'm watching guys throw, right? To me, if I watch a DI throw live, I'm talking Alfredo and Ed and Chris and Craig and all the guys that are carefully throwing, right? If you don't see the dice hit, bing, and die, not a perfect throw, right? When I was talking to JB about this one time, I said to him, look, I'm tracking every single throw, right? What I really should be doing is tracking of every single throw, how many of them actually did it? How many of them actually landed where I wanted and did the thing? Like, in other words, how efficient am I at doing the job? Number one. I want to track that. Really, what is the number of times I can pull it off, right? That's, I think, an important thing. Then he said, you got to call it in the air. You got to, in the air, say, okay, that was a good throw, right? So when we get the good result, we can say, okay, that was it. That was a good one. Let's track that result and then track the numbers that came out of that thing. That's an interesting thing that we're not tracking. How often can I do it? Of the good ones, how many of them have a decent result, or what the results are of there? That, I think, is going to be very interesting to see, right? Because that will tell you what your efficiency rate is. And I think we're not tracking efficiency anywhere. We're just, look, I got a 15 roller and, go bet on me. That worries me a little bit. So I think there's a metric piece here that we're missing. And I don't know what the metric, that's why I'm saying I don't know what the metric is. A lot of what I got here is questions, more questions than answers. I don't know what the metric is that we have to care. I would love to have him do a study on my toss style. And again, you saw the video, right? The video is out there on the ProCraps channel. You can see it. I showed it to you here, but it's not clear. It's my iPhone. That's the only slow-mo I got is my iPhone, right? You can see the numbers stick, right? That's the best I can do for you, right? But Yeah, I want to get him on that one. And again, I really want to have like an analysis, like the physics of it. Like dice spinning backwards and landing, they're going forward and they're spinning backwards at the same time. When that impact happens, right? They're going to go forward and keep going forward. The backward spin's not going to keep backwards. They're supposed to skip, right? And maybe keep going. It never happens, right? Because the force is opposite of the direction. They're spinning opposite where they're moving. There's no way they're going to stay spinning in that direction. The forward spin toss, which he says doesn't work, to me, I've done that one slow motion. Those dice do kind of snowplow into the back wall. Now they get destroyed on the back wall, but the first impact is better. They survive first impact better. And again, the spinner toss survives both impacts a little bit better. You're limited though, because you've only got two faces working for you, right? If my throw works, I've only got top and bottom that I'm playing with. If it works, I've only got 4 faces that I can make combinations out of, right? Otherwise, I'm succumbed to one worked and one of them is going to screw me, right? And I think that's why randomness comes in and bites you in the ass every single time. So, all right, I think that's it, guys. I think that's all I got to say on the topic. I will show you. I'll leave you with this. I'm going to go over here, not there. Let me go to my over here. I will show you this. It's because it's interesting, and I got to go to work anyway. So here's my my craps roll tracker. This is only 4,700 throws. This is only throws that I did when I was tracking only the 1s and 6s on top. I actually tracked 7,000 throws, but I lost the data. So this is what I have left, right? This is like from April or something like that. So there's 3,000 rolls that aren't part of this. So I apologize for that. The numbers don't change much. But here's what we see. And we talk about monetization, like what's important, right? The SRR 6.1, okay? No movement there. That's not anything to write home about. Box number to 7 ratio, right where it should be. You should see about 4 box numbers. This is again, box numbers with the puck on, right? How many times can I get paid when the puck is on? On average, I throw about 4 box numbers per point on average. That's where you should be. 4 is the number, right? I'm 3.98, so that's pretty cool. You can look at my stats. The important stat to me, again, I'm stacking 1s, right? Here's the important stats, right? We've talked about this. 23% of the time I get 0 box numbers, which kind of sucks, right? The number I expect there is about 20. I'm actually worse than normal. And again, this is a set that's it's gonna be a horn heavy set because it's 1s and 6s, right? But yeah, I don't get box numbers 20-something% of the time. It sucks, right? Here's the thing that I'm looking at, right? This is what I was checking out, the face control thing. If I'm setting 1s on top, I expect to see 1s or 6s in my results more often than other numbers, if my throw is working the way it should be, right? So this is what this is showing me, that I have the bottom or the top in play 46.8% of the time, right? This should be about 44%. So I'm about 3% close to it. More often than not, the bottom die or the top die has the top or the bottom face showing when the dice come to rest. In my case, it's a 1 or a 6. 3% of the time, I'm getting that. More often than not, it's the bottom die. The bottom one by itself is the 1, right? The bottom die really works well for me. For some reason, it sticks a little better. The top die is more action. You can see the top die only about 1%. The bottom die does a better job of staying where it's got to stay. Makes sense when you think about how that throw works, right? They're both spinning. The bottom one hits first. The top one sometimes lands on it. It skips in, it has first table contact. The top one oftentimes flies in front of it, hits the wall first, right? But look at this. I look at that and go, that's not 8% that you need, right? That's not a monetization value. I wouldn't put money on that yet, but that's over 4,000 rolls, that's moving the needle. A consistent amount, top and bottom. So that does say something to me that's an outlier enough that it deserves time. It doesn't deserve a bet, but it deserves time and analysis. That's why, again, I look at stuff like this and I go, yeah, nothing to write home about over here. Nothing great, right? All these numbers are, what you expect. I'm basically perfect pyramid, right? Except for my 6s for some reason, right? Things here look pretty normal as you go through it. You know, I'm getting whatever. Once I get past that first roll, though, I'm doing all right. Right? I'm getting a good percentage of, if I do the one hit can't miss, you know, I'm 75%. Guess what? My daily paycheck is 75%, because I don't let this destroy me. Right? So anyway, that's my numbers. I want to talk to him about it. I want him to analyze some of this stuff. I've had JB look at some of this stuff too, and he agrees with me on part of it. He's like, yeah, that's definitely an interesting number. It's not something you could put money against. And he's right. There's no way to put money against that. I wouldn't assert myself an expert. I wouldn't assert myself anything other than somebody who's gotten an interesting result, right? And that's where we live. I live in the world of, as you can see, essentially after 5,000 rolls, mostly random, right? So there it is. That's all I got for today. I'm gonna have to leave it there. I'm gonna go back to the other screen and call it. We care so much. Why we care so much? Because we're humans. Ultimately, the answer to that question is because we're people. People care about what people can do. So that's it, folks. You all have a great day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the 9 people who gave me a thumbs up. And thanks to the 2 people who gave me a thumbs down. We had 45 people watching, and only 11 of you cared enough to press the button on your way out, please. Let YouTube know that we are doing something here and having a good time with it. So love y'all. Love y'all. I know that people are not going to love everything I had to say today, because again, I'm kind of riding the fence on some of this stuff. But again, I got more questions than answers, and that's what makes it interesting to me, is having the questions and exploring. So y'all have a good one. Love y'all. God bless. See you tomorrow morning. Bye.